Gonna start. It's all yours.
All right, good morning. Thank you for having me. The Lever Run facility is beautiful. And it's very exciting to see such an engaged group. So thank you for having me. Everybody, can you hear me okay? And there's no screaming children in the background? Excellent. All right. So like Gary and Anita said, my name is Kate Kramer. I am the Assistant Medical Director for Arlington County Fire Department. I am a physician assistant. I've been one for going into my 14th year. I started my practice as an emergency medicine PA and worked at a lot of the trauma centers in the DC area. So worked at GW, Prince George's County, also worked at Walter Reed National Naval Medical Center, the VA Medical Center, and one more, but I'm forgetting it. So, and then I came over to the department in 2017. We kind of did a pilot program where every fire department has to have a physician who signs off on their medical protocols, on the ability to give medicines and those kind of things. So our medical director, our OMD, which is operational medical director, really wanted to have a PA as his assistant medical director. And this is a pretty unique thing to most fire departments. There are only 6 of us in the United States who are physician assistant medical directors. So it's kind of a neat, new, evolving role. And so I took a chance with Arlington and decided I would try it out and see what I could do with it. And I haven't looked back since. I'm very happy in my role. So it's been a lot of fun. And it was a nice change in pace from the emergency department. So my main focus is I work with a lot of our what we call fixed facilities. So things like nursing homes, assisted livings, the Pentagon is a big one for us. The Fort Myer installation is a big one. And there's kind of any facility that frequently interacts with 911, like our detention center, we work with a lot. And we really just work on ways to use 911 appropriately and make sure that we're reserving our resources for true medical emergencies. And then I also work a lot with individual citizens who need help, either connecting to services or, they're maybe making their homes safer. Maybe they're just relying on 911 as a primary means of care. And I try to connect them with the more appropriate resource. So that's a little bit about me. As I said earlier, I am actually a remote employee for the county. I actually live in Georgia. But don't be jealous, our weather is not much better today. So I moved here in June of 21 with my husband had a change in jobs and it was just a better situation for our family. I have 2 small boys. This is my 4-year-old in this picture. And then I also have a 10-month-old. So that's a little bit about me and my background. So a little bit about the fire department itself. So as you guys know, Arlington is the smallest county in the United States, but it is one of the most populous. We are about 26 square miles. 49 miles of that are trails, though, a lot of green space. A lot of that space is taken up also by Arlington National Cemetery. So where people live in Arlington is very condensed. We have a lot of what we call vertical response, which has really changed the way that we fight fires and the way that we respond to medical emergencies. Our normal daytime population or nighttime population is around 236,000 people, but we get an influx of about 30% more people every day, whether they're commuting into Arlington to work, commuting into Arlington to go through into DC, visiting any one of our monuments. And so that poses a particular challenge for the fire department as we're, paid to take care of those 236,000 people, but we have a fair amount of visitors too. So our daytime volume is very, very high. This is our mission statement as a fire department. We want to serve the community with compassion, integrity, and commitment through prevention, education, and professional response to all hazards. So we try to keep that in mind with anything that we do, any new programs that we institute, and just the way that we interact with the public. Our department values, our core values, are tradition, professionalism, diversity, integrity, consistency, and leadership. And again, those are just the mentality that we have when we're interacting with our community.
Someone wanted to know, what does ANC stand for?
ANC, oh, Arlington National Cemetery.
Thank you.
Sorry. In the medical field, we talk a lot in alphabet soup. So if I'm saying something in an acronym, you let me know. So our fire department is headed by our fire chief, Dave Pavlitz. He's been with the department now, I want to say about 4 years. We have over 400 uniformed personnel, 9 fire stations. In addition to that, we also have a fire training academy where all of our recruits learn how to do what we do. We have a fire prevention office that works with the community and restaurants and food trucks and those kind of things that help make sure that the way that they're operating is safe and within the fire code. The fire chief's office is located in Clarendon. And then we also have a logistics center. As you can imagine, fire departments need a lot of things to keep going: gloves and gowns and masks and fire hose and boots and uniforms and all of that thing. So they're very, very busy down at logistics. And we run about 32, actually this year it's been around 35,000 annual responses. So we are busy. This is kind of a little bit of breakdown of how our call volume works. So we are an all hazards department, meaning that we respond to both fire and EMS. There are some fire departments that only respond to fire, and there's some fire departments that only respond to EMS, but we do both. And this is just a little bit of breakdown. The majority of what we do is medical, is EMS type calls. And then the red is fire, the yellow is other, the purple is rescue, meaning if your car goes off an embankment and you become trapped against the guardrail, that's what our rescue team would do, would help get you out of the car. And then hazmat is a very small portion of that, but very vital, important portion. This is a little bit of a heat map of where our call volume is. I'm sure this is not a surprise to you to see that the yellow areas are where we're very populated. So down into the Pentagon, Crystal City area, down in that lower right-hand corner, then along the Columbia Pike, and then along the Ballston, Virginia Square, Roslyn Metro corridor. That's the majority of our calls. And like I said, the majority of what we do is medical. These are where our fire stations are located. If you've never visited your local fire station, we encourage you to do that. We have 9 stations currently. We're working on our 10th one. Sorry, this is apparently an old map because we do not currently have fire station 8. It's a beautiful historic fire station, but unfortunately it was deemed structurally unsafe because it's actually built where the apparatus bay, where the fire trucks are, is on top of the living quarters. And because of the weight of new fire trucks, it's just too heavy. And it was dangerous for our crews to be in that area, to live below the fire trucks. So we had to abandon fire station 8, unfortunately. But if you've never visited your local fire station, you should stop by. We welcome tours, especially now that COVID has kind of, well, it's still there, but dwindled anyway. But we do encourage people to stop by, come visit, check us out. Firefighters love to show off their shiny apparatus, so please come, please come check it out.
Somebody wanted to know, what's a tower?
Yeah, I'm gonna go into that. Yep. I got more pictures, don't you worry. So these are our specialty areas. So we do have a technical rescue team. So this is for like ropes. So for people We use a technical rescue for like construction workers stuck on scaffolding, for people that have gone down an embankment and need to be rescued that way. But it's mostly kind of ropes and Stokes baskets and things that we can use to evacuate someone from a difficult situation. We also have a hazardous materials team that will respond to any sort of odor or liquid that doesn't look like it should be there, those kind of things. We also have a water rescue team, which have boats and things for water type rescues, which you'd be surprised in Arlington, we've actually had to use when we had the flooding, what was it, 2 years ago now? And then they also get deployed to other areas of national and international disaster. We have a bomb squad, so bomb team for suspicious packets or our bomb threats or those kind of things. Our fire marshals are the ones who enforce our fire code. They're all trained as police officers as well, so they have arresting authority. And then our paramedics, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about, but that's our advanced medical team. So we pride ourselves on being a very progressive and innovative department. We use evidence-based medicine to make all of our decisions surrounding our EMS protocols, what medicines we use, when we use them, those kind of things. We really try to integrate well with all of our public safety partners. So we're very closely tied with police, with the sheriff's office, with our DHS team members, so Department of Human Services members. We're very tech savvy and we love using all the kind of new advantages. We have a lot of monitoring systems that we watch. We really try to be inclusive and equitable in the way that we work and the way that we respond. And we're also a very health forward department. We do a lot of cancer prevention screenings. We do a full physical for each one of our members to make sure that they're not developing a cancer that's kind of that's smoldering. Firefighters have a huge proportion of cancer, excuse me, based on what they're exposed to within burning buildings. So we do annual physicals. We have a lot of we have a personal trainer who's tied to our department who does a lot of nutrition. We just released a cookbook if anybody's interested on kind of healthy eating, healthy ideas. Also have some neat little like exercises involved in it. And then we really do try to be involved in our community and out and about.
Are all of the firefighters trained as EMTs?
They are. Yep. I'll get there. Yep. You guys
somebody-
are, you're on it.
Asked if you could repeat what you said about what the fire marshal's role is.
So yeah, so fire marshals are the ones that enforce the fire code. So each building has a requirement of how many sprinklers they need, how many fire extinguishers they need, how many exits they need, and which ones are locked and which ones aren't locked, how our evacuation plans marked, those kind of things. So the fire marshals are the ones that go out and inspect the buildings, make sure that they're staying with the code and make sure that it's safe for people to be in that building. A lot of times sprinkler systems will go offline for whatever reason, because technology. And so the fire marshals will help by doing a fire watch. So they'll, do patrols of the building, make sure that there's no fire that hasn't been seen that could, obviously result in disaster. So they do a lot with that. They investigate arson cases or cases of fires that we don't know what the cause was. Like the little library that was blown up a year ago, that the fire marshals are the ones that do the investigation of that and try to figure out who caused that and why, and they would do the arrest for that. So we operate on a shift schedule. So we do 24 hours on, 24 hours off, 24 hours on, 24 hours off, 24 hours on, and then they get 4 days off. So that's what we call a tour, are those 3 24-hour shifts with 24 hours off in the middle there. And so they also get what's called a Kelly day, which helps just kind of keep them on a consistent schedule. And it also makes it so that they don't keep landing on the end of the month every month, which is typically where holidays are. So we try to spread out the holidays so that each person can be home for one holiday a year or so. So they work about 50 hours a week on average. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But they all rotates. We have 3 separate shifts known as the A, B, and C shifts. So a little bit more about our apparatus. So like I said, we have 9 stations. We have a total of 9 engines, 2 trucks, 1 tower, 2 heavy rescues, 7 transport units, 2 battalion chiefs, 2 EMS supervisors, 1 command aide, 1 safety officer, and then 1 to 3 fire marshals on call, depending on the day. And I'll go into each of these pieces of apparatus, but these are just examples. So the upper left-hand corner is an example of an engine. The right-hand corner is one of our trucks. The bottom right corner is a rescue, and the bottom left corner is one of our medic units, one of our transport units. So how do we deploy our this is a common question I get when I give presentations like this, is why do so many people show up? I just called for an ambulance and I got 7 people in my door, right? So this is why we do it this way. So our medic unit, we have 7 of them, and we have both what we call ALS and BLS. So ALS is advanced life support and BLS is basic life support. So every member of the fire department, all 400 of us, are at least an EMTB, which means emergency medical technician basic. And an EMTB can do a lot of things. They can take vital signs, they can check blood sugar, they can give certain medicines by mouth like aspirin, nitroglycerin. They can also give oxygen. They can give breathing treatments, those kind of things. So like I said, we have 7 of these. So there's a mix of personnel. Sometimes there will be 2 BLS providers, so 2 basic life support providers. Sometimes there will also be a paramedic on this engine, and that makes it ALS, that's advanced life support. A paramedic can do a lot of things. They can give medicines via an IV or an intravenous medication. So they can also do EKGs to check your heart rhythm, to check if you have a heart attack. They can also, put a breathing tube down your throat if you're not breathing. There's a lot of things that they can do, and they have a lot of training. It's at least 2 years of training, plus they have a preceptorship period. So they're very well trained. We do a lot of continuing training as well to make sure that they are really on top of their game. So our medic units have a variety of things. So depending on the reason for the 911 call, our dispatch center will take in the information, and based on that information, they'll either send 1 medic unit or one basic life support unit. If it's a low level call, like someone who twisted their ankle or is having back pain, those kind of things. So that's kind of the first level. The low level is just 1 medic unit. Then the next level up is what is our next level, what we call ALS level 1. And that's where you're going to get 1 medic unit and 1 piece of fire apparatus. And so, like I said, we have 3 different types of fire apparatus. The engines are the most abundant. We have 9 of them, and they have shorter ladders, but they have hose. They can hook up to fire hydrants, and they have, excuse me, 4 personnel on each engine. So they'll have 3 EMTBs and 1 paramedic. And because we have 9 of them, they can get there quickly. So that way that paramedic can get on scene very fast, and they can start giving medical treatment. Sorry. The problem with having 2 small kids is you always have germs. We rely on our engines to be the first arriving unit a lot of times, so they can start all of the treatments they need. The paramedics on engines carry all of the same drugs that they carry on the medic units, that we can help life-saving interventions quickly. The middle picture is one of our towers. So there's the trucks and the towers. The only difference is the tower has a bucket on the end. So that it's just a little bit safer for the firefighter. And I believe the tower goes up a little bit higher. Now, I talked a little bit about that vertical response. We don't have a ladder that goes high enough in Arlington because they just keep building these buildings taller and taller and taller. And that's why it's so important for our fire marshals to get out and make sure that these buildings are up to code, that they have the appropriate fire suppression systems and those kind of things, because they just don't make a ladder that's going to go up 22 stories or 25 stories. So the tower, same thing. Excuse me. Let me just take a sip. So the tower also has 4 personnel, 1 paramedic on it. And then our rescue, the rescue is the upper right-hand corner. Again, 4 personnel. And then the only difference with the rescue is it has kind of the heavy cutting tools that we would need to like cut apart a car, to enter a structure that's not safe, those kind of things, so that so they just carry those heavier duty tools. And then the last piece of apparatus is our advanced practice officers. And these are our EMS supervisors. These are our highest level paramedics. They are officers within our department, so they have proven themselves to be leaders. We have 2 of these units, 1 north and 1 south, and there's one personnel on this apparatus. And so they respond to our highest of high acuity calls, and then they also respond to our low acuity calls. So maybe a person who is needing a prescription for something. Excuse me, goodness. They would respond and they would assist that citizen in getting their prescription filled. Or maybe it's someone we've identified who has fallen several times, and we want to look at their home and try to figure out why they keep falling. Is there a way we can assist them to be a little bit safer in their home? So the APOs respond to our highest ones, and then also the low acuity. They carry some special extra tools as well. They have ultrasound machines, so they can check for blood in the abdomen after a trauma. They can check, make sure that a baby is moving around in a pregnant lady. They can do a variety of things with the ultrasound machine. They also carry a mobile lab machine, so they can check if a nursing home patient had, labs drawn 2 days ago and they were abnormal, well, let's check them right now, see how they are. All right, maybe they're normal now. Maybe this person doesn't need to go to the hospital. Let's save them that trip. And then they also carry whole blood. And so whole blood is a great tool for the traumatically injured patient. It helps reduce the acuity of what we bring them to the hospital. It helps reduce their hospital stay. It really is a life-saving intervention for a traumatically injured patient. So they do carry some extra tools. And like I said, they're also the supervisor level. So we rely on them a lot to intervene with people that really need help and just don't know what to do.
Someone wanted to ask, what's the highest floor you can reach with the tower?
I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. I'll send it to Anita. I do a lot of the medical side of things. I want to say it's like the 20th floor, depending on how tall the floors are. Because sometimes floors are 9 feet, sometimes floors are 10 feet. Sometimes you'll have like an atrium that's, like a cathedral kind of thing, like 25 feet, and then smaller floors on top. But I want to say the ladder goes up, or the tower goes up to the 20th story, is my understanding. But I'll get that to Anita so she can send it out to you.
Next question is, how many women firefighters are there now?
So we actually are one of the highest proportion of female firefighters in the nation. We have 30% of our workforce is female. We were one of the first career fire departments in the United States to have a female battalion chief. We also have a female deputy chief. We have two female battalion chiefs. And then a fair portion of female firefighters, lieutenants, captains, captain twos, those kind of things. But we're one of the higher proportions of females. We also, we really try to empower our female component. We do a camp in the summertime for women interested in firefighting called Camp Heat. And we really try to outreach with female youth to show them that this is not only for men.
Is it hard to recruit new firefighters?
It can be. There's a lot of competition. Everybody's hiring. Every fire department is trying to hire qualified people. It's a rigorous process. So they have to go through physical assessment. They have to go through a lie detector test. They have to go through a psychological screening, and they also have a background check. And there's certain things that are kind of hard stops and people that just can't be hired. If they have a DUI history, unfortunately that would eliminate them from being a firefighter, because you're driving a large truck through streets, and we can't have that kind of history. So it's a rigorous process. We run about 2 recruit schools a year. We try to have about 25 recruits in each process. And I would say usually we get 19 to 20 through each recruit school. We generally have about 200 or so applicants. And so we whittle that down to about 25. Generally it is pretty competitive. It's hard because I don't think a lot of people view the fire department as a career anymore. It's more of a kind of a stepping stone, or kind of something fun to do. And a lot of folks started as a volunteer, and the volunteer firefighter network is just not as strong as it used to be. And so it's hard. It's definitely a challenge in these times to recruit firefighters.
Someone wanted to ask if you could explain the term acuity when you're talking high and low acuity. Is that the same as urgency, or
acuity is complexity of the medical problem. So when in the medical field, acuity to us means just really how complicated is the complaint. So a lower acuity problem is something that's simpler to take care of, like a cold or a sore throat, or a simple laceration or a simple cut. Those are low acuity items, whereas a high acuity is something more complicated, like chest pain or stroke symptoms, or those kind of things where we really have to do a lot of tests, or do a really comprehensive physical exam to figure out what's going on and how we should react.
Who does the
Sorry.
Who does the dispatching?
So we have an emergency communications center called ECC, and they have, I want to say probably like 9 to 10 dispatchers on at a time. They're obviously 24/7, 365. And they're medically trained dispatchers. So they have a series of questions that they'll ask when someone calls 911. So when you call 911, the first things they're going to ask is, what's your emergency? So then they can figure out, is it fire? Is it police? Is it, some other responding agency? And then they're going to ask where you are, which can be difficult to know where you are, but it's important to be either able to give them an address or landmarks. And then they're going to go through a series of questions. Is the person awake and talking to you? Does it look like they're breathing normally? And that, based on the answers to those questions, they'll ask more questions, and that'll help them determine which piece of apparatus needs to respond. So how complicated is this call? Are you calling to say, I am having trouble breathing, but I'm speaking in full sentences, and I've had a cold for a week. they might send only the medic unit for that person to assess them to make sure that they don't need anything further. But, maybe I'm having trouble breathing, but I can't speak. I'm having pain with that. I've had a fever, those kind of things. That's gonna send more pieces of apparatus because we need more personnel to handle that kind of complaint. Make sense? Good question.
How are firefighters paid? Is it through tax money or special funding or?
Yep,
where-
through taxes. So, as my understanding, I don't know, the county manager gives us a budget and we say we'll spend it. But yeah, I believe it's tax money.
Okay.
So these are just some examples of some of the community engagement that we do. So we have a Stroke Smart program where we teach community groups how to recognize stroke symptoms and what to do if they see a person who's having a stroke. We also have what's called Hands to Heart, which is our CPR program, which is a hands-only CPR. And then we also do Operation Fire Safe, which is a usually in the fall. It's a community-wide effort to make sure that smoke detectors are in everybody's home, on every level, in every bedroom, and that they're functional, that they have recently replaced batteries or those kind of things. And if you don't have one, when we visit your home, we can install them for you. We can make sure that they're functional. We can also help you find your carbon monoxide detectors, those kind of things. And then the other example is our Make the Right Call campaign, which is what I was asked to talk about. So Make the Right Call was a educational campaign to help kind of reduce, or to help make sure that the public is aware of reasons to call 911 and reasons not to call 911. So we started this when I started with the department with phase one was working with our fixed facilities and trying to make sure that they were using 911 appropriately. And now that, I don't know if you've ever visited the Pentagon, but it's a very large installation and it has about 30,000 people that commute in every day to work there. They have their own clinic there, but based on your connection to the military system, based on your status in TRICARE, those kind of things, is whether they can care for their people or not. So we were having about 5 medic units there a day at a time to transport patients out of the Pentagon for various reasons. And if you remember, we only have 7 medic units. So having 5 of them at the Pentagon at once was a huge use of our resources. So we talked a lot about reasons to call 911, reasons not to call 911, maybe, and we set up some alternatives for the Pentagon to be able to send their patients to Walter Reed, which keeps them in the military system, keeps them in the TRICARE system. And it really helped reduce the number of medic units that were there, which helps our system, helps our citizens, help those who pay our bills to make sure that they have an ambulance available when they need it. So same thing with nursing homes. Nursing homes have to have a private transport contract. And so if you're using the 911 system to transport someone for, an abnormal lab or, a tube, a G tube that fell out or something of that nature, that's not really a good use of 911. So we talked about, making sure you're using your private transport company, making sure you at least try to call them first and see what their ETA is and those kind of things. So we started phase one with our fixed facilities. And then phase 2 was an outreach program. And we did this in, I want to say October of 2018. We did it in conjunction with Operation Fire Safe, where, of course, where when we were going into people's homes to hand out fire extinguishers and do fire safety plans, we also gave them a flyer, and the flyer just, said, here are reasons to call 911, here are reasons not to call 911. If you think you're having a medical emergency, we still want you to call 911 and we'll help connect you to the right resource. And so we kind of evolved these flyers a little bit, and I'll show that to you in a second. But the reason we really launched this was that the traditional model of EMS is, you call, we haul, meaning that you call 911, we either give you the option, you got to get in the back of our ambulance and we'll take you to the hospital, or you sign a refusal. Those were the only options. And it really isn't a great use of resource. It's not a great use for the citizen. It's not a great service. It limits the destinations. Sorry, ambulances can only go to hospitals. They can't go anywhere else. So, we're bringing you up to an ER, which is just not the best use. ERs are great. They can do a lot of things, but the minimum cost of an ER is usually around $2,000. And there's other options. There's other resources that could meet your need. It's also very, just not a good use of the system. So we really tried to look at it and make sure that we were using the right resources. So excuse me, this is a breakdown of what that initial flyer is. This one on the left hand side of the screen, that's the flyer that we handed out. So this is just a breakdown of what those individuals were. So the red is, we want you to call 911, heavy bleeding, trauma, difficulty breathing, chest pain. Those are reasons to call 911. Maybe things that could be taken care of at an urgent care are things like sprains, skin infections, colds, coughs, minor burns. Those are things that are absolutely urgent, but maybe could be taken care of in another fashion. Primary care doctors are great for things that are chronic in nature, managing chronic medical conditions like high blood pressure, stomach aches, back pain, those kind of things. Pharmacies are underutilized resources. Pharmacists have PhDs and they know about all these interactions between all the different medicines and those kind of things. So if you've been having a chronic symptom for a while, like you're, just having dizziness or something of that nature, it's a good idea to talk to your pharmacist. They can look at your list of medicines and say, these two could interact. Maybe you should talk to your doctor about that, those kind of things. And then, self-care, you'd be surprised the number of calls we get for people that are hungover or, have a sunburn, those kind of things. It would be great if everybody could learn the dose of Tylenol you should take for a fever, those kind of things. So self-care kind of things. If ever in doubt, we want you to call 911. But what we want the public to know is, don't be surprised if we try to approach it a different way. So that leads us into what our ET3 program is. And ET3 is Emergency Treatment, Triage, and Transport. It is a program that the Center for Medicare Services has piloted. We had to apply and get accepted to this program. We're one of 35 agencies in the United States that's participating here. And what CMS is trying to discover is there a better use of the system? Excuse me. Can we give the ambulance companies more flexibility to address people's emergency needs without bringing them to the hospital? And so CMS is doing this pilot where they will pay us to not bring you to the hospital, which is great because traditionally all we get paid for is transport to the hospital. Excuse me. So now CMS will pay for transport to an alternative destination, like an urgent care, and they'll also pay for treatment in place if that's appropriate. So we've been participating in this model since February of 22. And how it works is you call 911 just like normal. If you feel like you're having a medical emergency, we want you to call 911. The dispatcher is going to go through the same questions that they would go through normally, and they're going to dispatch the same response. You're still going to get an ambulance, a medic unit, or an engine, or a supervisor. Somebody is coming to your home to take care of you. They're going to do a full assessment just like we normally would. And if they feel that the condition is, something that we could fix a different way, we're going to offer you the alternatives. We're going to offer you the option to either progress as usual. We'll bring you up to the hospital if that's what you'd like to do. but we're going to present you with options here. You know, we could call a PA or a nurse practitioner or a doctor right now. They can get on the phone with you. They can talk through your symptoms. They can talk through the options. And then they could prescribe you a medicine, or they could refer you to an orthopedist or a dentist or something, some other option. We're always going to ask for your consent. This is not something that we're going to force you to do. If you want to go to the hospital, that's up to you. But we just want to make sure that you're being offered a different method if that meets your needs. Right now we have a couple alternative destinations. One is the urgent care, the Virginia Hospital immediate care down in Crystal City. And then also Sequoia Plaza has a 24-hour psych facility. So for patients in mental health crisis, feeling depression, feeling suicidal, feeling anxious, this is a great place for them to go. That's not sitting on a bed in the hospital hallway. You know, it's just a much more positive experience for someone who's in psychiatric crisis. So we, as a fire department under this model, can actually bring somebody to one of these facilities in an ambulance. To make sure that they get the care that they need. It's just not the traditional going up to the emergency department.
Okay, we're about 10 minutes to 11, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My coughing has slowed me down. I think I'm close. So treatment in place, we're going to stay with you on scene. We'll use our iPad to connect with the provider to make sure you have good video, good audio. The provider or QHP, which is a qualified health provider, is a PA, a nurse practitioner, or doctor. We're going to do a video visit with you just like your normal doctor would. We can write prescriptions. We can arrange for follow-up. We're going to call you the next day, and we'll bill your insurance for that visit just like your normal doctor would. But it's just another way to meet your need without bringing you to the hospital, without you know, taking up that ambulance, really just making sure we're matching the resource with the need. So the benefits to the community for ET3, you know, again, we're not having that mismatch of just bringing everybody to the hospital, clogging up the ER. We're really making sure that we are meeting your need and not just slapping a Band-Aid on it. It's actually turned out to be quite the health equity partnership, because the people that are utilizing this resource are the people that are people who don't traditionally have access to this. You know, and my next slide, I'll have a little map of where the calls are coming from. And it's from our lower income areas where people don't have solid health insurance. We don't have a physician that they can call if they need a prescription or if their kid needs something. You know, so we're really bringing a doctor into somebody's home who might not traditionally have access or might be scared of going to get access or going to get care. It's a cost and time saving for patients, and it's preserving our medic units for those true emergencies, because we, again, only have 7 medic units, so we do tend to run out of them sometimes. So we've had about 150 telehealth calls since we launched in February of 2022. About 55% of those are treatments in place. And the other bigger proportion are actually high risk refusals. So people who we feel need to go to the hospital, but they don't want to go. Sometimes talking to a doctor, sometimes talking to a QHP can convince them that they should go. And if they don't still want to go, well, now we've had someone assess you. We've been able to really give you the full gamut of the explanation. We're trying to expand our services. So we're offering our services to the jail. We're offering them to the Crisis Intervention Center. And we're really, again, seeing that it's utilized in populations with limited access to medicine. So this is what our call volume is so far. So our busiest zip codes are 22202, which is that Pentagon City, Crystal City area, then 22203 along the Columbia Pike corridor, and then 22201 in Clarendon, Ballston area, that kind of those kind of places. And the last point I want to make, and then I'll shut up, is I know this is probably in the forefront of a lot of people's minds with the recent overdose at Wakefield High School. The fire department does host drug take-back boxes. We have permanent boxes at 2 of our fire stations, Fire Station 2 and Fire Station 9. So if you have prescriptions that you don't need anymore, please dispose of them in these boxes. The number one way that kids get access to opioids is going through parents and grandparents and friends and families, their drug boxes or pharmacy, or geez, what's the word? Medicine cabinets. That's the word. That's how kids get access to opioids to start with, and then it spirals from there. So if you have a prescription that you don't need anymore, please use one of these boxes to dispose of your medicines. If you can at all. If you can't, we can also, if you want to contact the customer service center at 228-1700, they can mail you a bag to dispose of unwanted medicines as well. So just a plug there. And I think that's it for me.
Okay.
So Dispatch Health is a for-profit company. Our E23 through Arlington County is not for-profit. So we only will bill your insurance. We won't come after, we don't balance bill. So Dispatch Health is a company that you can call that will come to your home and do an assessment just the same as we would, but they're gonna get their money from you. Where Arlington County, we're doing this as a service to our citizens. We're only going to bill your insurance. If your insurance doesn't pay, then we won't come after you. A QHP is someone from Arlington County. Yep, all of our employees are Arlington County Fire Department employees. Most of them work at Virginia Hospital Center. So they are very familiar with our system. They're very familiar with our firefighters. It's not your individual health care provider. They work for the fire department. They're uniformed employees just like us. The psych crisis. So at Sequoia Plaza, the Crisis Intervention Center is a 24-hour facility where someone who is in mental health crisis or needing help with substance abuse, they can show up at this facility. It's at 2120 Sequoia, so it's around the back of Sequoia Plaza, and they can present themselves to this facility. And it's staffed with psychologists or social workers who can help that person in crisis, help them stabilize. They can get them access to medicines. They can link them to psychiatrists, those kind of things. So it's a great resource. It's a super underutilized resource because I don't think a lot of people know it's available. And they're working on some public health public messaging.
So Kate, there was a question a while ago. Are there any regulations about smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in homes? Any requirements that we have them? Is it all voluntary?
It's all voluntary. In a single family home, it's all voluntary. Our recommendation is that you have at least one smoke detector on each level and one in every bedroom. But it's not required in single family homes. It is required in multifamily dwellings. So things like apartment buildings, garden style apartments, where multiple people are affected, but not in single family homes.
Does that even apply to new construction?
Yep, if it's a single family dwelling, no, but if it's multiple family, like a duplex, even that there are requirements there.
Another question is, many of our members are older and live alone. Does that present a special problem for 911 calls?
Not necessarily. We do ask that if you can call 911 to please call, rather than like using a life alert button or a pendant. Those can be very hard to hear for our dispatchers. So a lot of the times they don't know what the problem is when we're dispatching out. So if you can call 911, or if somebody can call 911, please try to do so that we can get more details of what's going on, and what the issue is, so we can make sure we're sending the appropriate resource. obviously, if you can't and you just hit that button, we're still going to come. There's still going to be some interaction. It just you might end up with more people than you expected, because those often will get dispatched out as like a trouble unknown, which gets the full gamut because we don't know what we're walking into. So we just ask, that you can. Other than that, I mean, I really don't think that there's anything special for being older. We're going to respond the same way that we would respond to anybody, whether you're, whatever your color, gender, race, ethnicity, religious preference, whatever, we respond. It's the greatest social contract that ever existed, 911. You call it from anywhere in the United States and somebody's showing up to help you. And that's the same way in Arlington. That's our motto. That's our mission. We just want people to know that we might approach it a different way than you would anywhere else in the United States.
Okay, another question. Is passing out a reason to call 911?
Absolutely, yes. That is a great reason to call 911.
Another question is with national landing projects in Pentagon City, is the fire department going to stay as it is or change, station locations or numbers or reconfigure itself?
So we're working on that, and that's kind of what we're with the closing of Station 8. We have the personnel for another fire department, and that's really what the data is telling us, is that we need a fire station down near HQ and down in National Landing. So we're working on that. We're trying to make it a part of the requirements for Amazon to open, is to have appropriate medical services in the area, and so we're working on it. But yes, that's what the data is showing us. I mean, that's where the majority of our call volume is. Kind of one of the perks of being in this area is we have a really robust mutual aid system. So especially in that area too, Alexandria can get there often a lot faster than we can. And so we rely on our partners, our surrounding jurisdictions, to help us when we do run out of medic units. So they'll often come into that area. Sometimes the airport will come off of, the airport fire department will come off the installation and help us there too. So that's kind of the unique thing with that area, but that's definitely where we would like our next fire station to be. We don't want to lose the historic value and the history behind Station 8. It is really a unique fire station. There's a lot of history there. It's a historic historic African-American firehouse. We really don't want to lose the community aspect there. But the data is really pointing us in the direction of we need that fire station to be in that area, in the National Landing area.
Can you talk a little bit about the connection between the Arlington County Fire Department and the City of Falls Church?
Sure, yep. So the City of Falls Church, we provide EMS services for the City of Falls Church, as well as fire services, but they also do have a volunteer system so they are also trained EMTs. They operate under the same protocols as the traditional, or not traditional, but the career firefighters for Arlington County. And then they can volunteer to ride on an ambulance to help respond. They have what's called an air truck, which will bring us new bottles of air if we're in a fire for a long period of time. They also have a light truck that can help illuminate difficult scenes or dark scenes. And then they also, everyone there, like I said, is an EMTB as well. So they can help in times of surge. They can stand up another unit to help us out. They also do a lot of events with us as well. They do training with us. We do continuing medical education with us as well. So they're an integral part of our system. We also have volunteers at our Cherrydale volunteers as well. So we do have opportunities for volunteer.
Very good. Well, I think we're ready to wrap. Gary, are you stopping the recording at this point?